Trustees to order at 7 p.m. on March 3rd, 2022. Board members, district staff members, and members of the audience, you are free to join me in standing as Dr. Randy Davis provides a message, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, which will be led by Randy Shackman, and the pledge to the Texas flag, led by Tara Bacek.
Let us pray. Our dear Heavenly Father, today we are thankful for this opportunity to gather as a community of learners and leaders. Lord, please bless our communities, our school district, its employees, its leaders, and the Board of Trustees as we all continue to make decisions in the best interest of our future leaders, our children. Bless all who work with our children, as those workers are also learners. Dutch writer Corrie ten Boom stated, "The best learning I had came from teaching." As Proverbs 11:2 states, when pride comes, then comes disgrace, but with humility comes wisdom. Lord, provide us with the humility to gain wisdom so that learning becomes teaching and teaching becomes learning. Please bless state, national, and world leaders at this time of hardship and fighting, as peace can be within reach for all of humanity. Help our leaders gain wisdom that humankind is fragile and requires learning, attention, and much needed love in order to continue. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible. Well, welcome to everyone tonight. Thank you for coming out and joining us tonight. We have a lot to celebrate. Welcome to March, meteorological spring now. So the weather's getting nicer, and the spring semester is moving along at a pretty rapid clip. So thank you for being here. As a district, we dedicate all our efforts and resources to our goal of high expectations for all. The board uses this goal to guide all deliberations, decisions, and actions. You will get to see all deliberations, decisions, and actions of the board in open session, with the exception of some items which may be discussed in closed session, such as stipulated in the Texas Government Code Section 551, commonly known as the Open Meetings Law. These items typically deal with personnel matters, consultation with our attorney, and real estate. For the record, board members present are Tara Bacek, Sally Derrick, Randy Shackman, Guillermo Ramos, Cassandra Hatfield, Carolyn Benavides, and myself, Les Black. We constitute a quorum and may conduct business on behalf of the district. Before moving to the next agenda item, I'd like to remind you that the board will accept comments from citizens of the district and from district employees. Anyone wishing to speak either as an individual or as a representative of a group may do so during agenda item number 3, Audience for Guests. Please submit your request to do so on one of the forms provided on the table just outside the boardroom door. You may place the completed form in the box provided on that same table, or present your completed form to Administrative Assistant Kim Castagnon. When the board addresses agenda item number 3, Audience for Guests, you will be invited to the podium to speak to the board. So we'll move now to item 2, Special Presentations and Recognitions, and item 2A, Student Recognitions, 2B, Teachers of the 9 Weeks, and 2C, District Announcements. So I'll turn these over to Don Parnell.
Good evening, Dr. Black, Dr. Chapman, and members of the board. Tonight we're going to start with our student recognitions, and we would like to honor and congratulate Mr. Jace Kirshen. He is from R.L. Turner High School, and Jace made the Texas All-State Tenor Bass Choir. Congratulations to Jace. Parents, did y'all get the picture you need? Next, we want to congratulate Creekview High School senior Conrad Hendrickson for winning the 2022 UIL 5A Wrestling 120 pounds state champion title. This is Conrad's third state wrestling title. He was also voted the most outstanding wrestler at the UIL 5A Wrestling State Championship. He is the first Carrollton athlete to ever win this achievement. He will be wrestling in college next year for the University of Tennessee at Chattanooga. Congratulations. Next tonight, we want to announce a special award for staff, and that's actually our Communication Services Department. Recently, the Communication Services Department was honored with 9 awards at the Texas School Public Relations Association. The department received 2 silver awards, 6 gold awards, and 1 best of category. Congratulations to Amy Johnson for her design work, which placed in the following categories: enrollment flyer, internal brochure, welcome brochure, enrollment mailer, CCMR handbook, style guide and style wall, CFB coloring book. And Ms. Johnson won the coveted best of category for her design of the CFB mini pocket calendar. Congratulations, Amy. Next, for announcements, first of all, I want to make sure that you have a chance to look at the beautiful artwork from Creekview High School. This is a mixture of watercolors and ink, and so we are so thankful for our high school students that shared their talent with us in this beautiful artwork. Next, we are proud to announce that our community partners at the Farmers Branch Chamber of Commerce named CFB as the most innovative business of the year. CFB was selected by the Chamber membership for the innovative ways that the district trained, educated, and rewarded staff and students throughout the time of the pandemic. Grace Spees is the president of the Chamber, and she is here to present this award officially to Dr. Chapman and Dr. Black. And next, we want to congratulate our teachers of the 9 weeks. So if you'll please join me in watching this video announcing each of these outstanding educators.
Ashley Dickey, Blair Elementary. Angelica Handley, Blanton Elementary. Carolyn Lane, Carrollton Elementary. Jordan McKay, Central Elementary. Jennifer Tortorello, Country Place Elementary. Susan Cox, Davis Elementary. Rachel Ollier, Farmers Branch Elementary. Alpa Salvi, Freeman Elementary. Kara Danford, Furneaux Elementary. Nydia Chavarria, Good Elementary. Paige Hodge, Kent Elementary. Brittany Phillips, Landry Elementary. Ashley Shingle, La Villita Elementary. Inyonam Kumikpor, Las Colinas Elementary. Congratulations to our teachers of the 9 weeks.
Again, congratulations to all of our recipients, and that concludes our recognitions.
Congratulations to all our students as you guys are slipping out. What a wonderful accomplishment. 3-time state champ, all-state choir. Really proud of you. Also, I noticed one of our teacher of the 6 weeks is here tonight. So Carolyn Lane, back in the back row in the scout uniform. taking a break from her scout supervision duties, her busy schedule. Congratulations, Carolyn, and to everyone else recognized tonight.
Okay, I have a couple announcements under district announcements. First of all, we are opening up our travel starting March 1st, so it's already started. Due to the low number of COVID cases, we're now opening that up for our students and for our staff. We're having deeper conversations. There'll be some announcements coming in the 1st of April that we will be looking at protocols for in-person on our campuses, but there'll be more to come. We're still ironing out to make sure we all have the proper protocols in place before we make those solid announcements. May 28th, UNT is graduation, and it is still on to have it at the facilities. And so we're working through that as we speak, but they have given us the go-ahead. Be an all-day event for the board from daylight to dark, and it'll be a great day to celebrate our 2,000 graduates. 4 board member parents that night, huge, so that's very exciting as we continue to move that forward. Our EETF, our Equity and Equality Task Force, is still at work, and so they're going to meet next week on the 10th to continue to work on that 3 to 5 year plan. Dr. McLeod will bring that back to the board hopefully on April 14th. Really appreciate board members getting out and read across America. So thank you this week for doing such. It's a great opportunity for our kiddos and our staff to see us out and about and obviously reading to those individuals. On April 6th, board operating procedures. So we talked about that in a board meeting. So on the 6th, we're going to start. TASB's going to come in and they're going to work with us to edit our current board of operating procedures as we move forward, and we've already started the work with Studer. Be a lot more information coming forth. Survey's about to roll out, so we're going to be having deeper conversations. We'll bring a cabinet tool to that group on the 14th as well. And last but not least, I would like to recognize Dr. Lance Hamlin as our newest Assistant Superintendent of CFB ISD. So thank you for moving up, been in the chain, been in the district many years, but now he's going to hold the title Assistant Superintendent. We're very blessed to have him in this position. That's my report.
Well, congratulations, Dr. Hamlin. We will go now to item 2D, which is our update from the PTA, and this I will turn over to Meredith Watson.
Hello, I am Meredith Watson, and I'm currently serving as the interim president for Council PTA for CFB, and I would like to update you on the efforts of our council. So I'll start with the Harlem Wizards recap, which most of you know was on February 19th, and we had approximately 1,000 people attend from all over the district. We had a great time with the Wizards, and our team put up a good show, scoring equal points until the Wizards got out their bag of tricks. We'd like to thank everyone who came out for this fun family event, and to thank our real champions, the team, the principals, and our volunteers. Because of the success of this event, we hope to present some surprises to our schools and our PTAs at an upcoming delegate meeting. Which leads me to our next delegate meeting will be March 9th at 6:30 p.m. in the ESDC Texas room, and we'd love to see you guys there. And we have quite a few more events coming up. So first, together with the AAUW North Dallas, Council PTA will be hosting a school board candidate forum on Wednesday, April 13th at the CFB ISD Multipurpose Center. Doors will open at 6:30 p.m. and our forum will begin at 7 p.m. This is a nonpartisan forum focused solely on voter education regarding CFB ISD school board candidates, and we hope to see you all there. We also invite you all to attend our upcoming Texas Life PTA Member Award Ceremony on April 21st at the CFB Multipurpose Center, and that also begins at 6:30 p.m. And this is a night where we will honor all those receiving a Texas PTA Life Membership Award, and everyone is invited, and again, we hope to see you there. And then lastly, I'd just like to give a quick shout out to our following PTAs who earned the Welcome Back Membership Award from Texas PTA for getting 10 new members in January. That's right, they're still collecting memberships. Good Elementary, Thompson Elementary, and R.L. Turner High School. And 26 of our 36 PTAs have shown an increase in membership this year. And so I just want to thank you all for joining PTAs. If you haven't, you can still do so at joinpta.org. Membership goes on all year round. As always, thank you to all of your support for CFB PTAs. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Watson, and thanks again to the PTA. I say it every month, we couldn't have a school without you. So thank you for all y'all do. Our next item on the agenda is number 3, audience for guests. Ms. Castagnon, are there any in-person requests for this item? Okay, so no requests for audience for guests. We'll move to agenda item 4A, non-action items for discussion. 4A is our bilingual ESL report. So I'll turn this over to Olivia Perez, Carolina Christensen, our directors of ESL, Bilingual ESL.
Good evening. If you would turn to the materials under the yellow paper. Great. Good evening, President Black, Dr. Chapman, members of the board. Tonight we will be presenting updates on the Bilingual ESL program and the progress our students are making. Okay. Apparently it's the end of the slideshow. I apologize for that. Now it's good. The support to our emerging bilinguals is guided by the 5 that drive. We have a culture of inclusion, high achievement regardless the language proficiency. We analyze data to refine the supports our students need, while teachers offer accommodations needed for all to have access to their own level curriculum. This is all done through interdepartmental and school collaboration.
In this presentation, I do want to let you know that we may use the term emergent bilinguals as TEA has moved away from using English language learners or ELs, and the term emergent bilinguals or EB is now being used. And so we sometimes will use those interchangeably. We want to be sure that you understand that it's not just bilingual students, it's emergent, so it's focusing on their strength of adding a language on. In 2020-2021, we had 291 newcomers that came in from other countries to our district. And this year, we have 837 newcomers. With a total number of 9,013 emergent bilinguals, this means this is 35% of our student population. We have representing 116 countries and over 52 languages. So CFB is truly a diverse district.
So our emerging bilingual students are some of our most fragile students when it comes to language support. During the pandemic, our students did not have the opportunities to participate in rich classroom discussions as they had in the past. And we all know that oral language is precursor to literacy. This is an example of a comparison done to assess support for emerging bilingual students. We took the results from the previous year's start and compared it to the projected proficiency in MAP. This is the MAP they took during the winter, which is January. On the right side of the chart, we calculated the percentage of students that we are moving in the right direction. In English, we have 10% more students are expected to approach the standards, and 3% more students are expected to meet compared to last year. In Spanish, we're expecting to capture 12% more students in the approaches category and 4% more in the meets level. And we'll still have some a couple months more before the state assessments. So we are expecting to capture more students, especially in the master's category. In the next slides, I will be showing only the projected differences for simplicity. So it's just the left part of the right part of the graph of the chart. So if we look at 4th and 5th grade results across all of the exams, we can see that we're capturing a large amount of students. It is important to see how our 5th graders are improving at a fast pace. These are all emergent bilingual students, and regardless of their language proficiency. So we can see all it's green means that we're moving in the right direction. The next slide is our middle school students. Of course, 6th grade is not what we want to see, but historically we see a dip in their performance in 6th grade when they go from 5th to 6th grade. But we hope to capture some of those students so this doesn't regress their progress in 5th grade. And as you can see in 8th grade math, the progress is immense. Thinking that these students with the 8th grade math, these were the students that took 7th grade STAR test and will be taking 8th grade math STAR test this year. So 29% of those students are expected to approach more than 29% more of students are expected to approach than they did last year. So we're very excited about the possibilities and the gains.
Our department ensures compliance. We build curriculum and we coach teachers, but more importantly, we also sometimes have to come up with some ingenious ideas to help our students. So some of our departmental initiatives include some instructional scaffolds that were put into place. We're having a homework hotline, which is a virtual room where students can come in the evenings and get bilingual help on their homework, on graduation, anything that they're needing there. Night School has added several courses that is ensuring equitable access for our emergent bilinguals. We have Saturday tutoring to help with our graduation team endeavors. And we have Imagine Learning, which is an online web-based system that helps students acquire language, and it's available anywhere they are, so they can use it at any time throughout the year. We also have incorporated some strategic educator support. We have brought in consultants to offer professional development and sheltered instruction. We've brought in a newcomer institute from the Center of Applied Linguistics. And in order to expand some of our certifications, we've built in an initiative to build more bilingual and ESL certification across the district. So we've offered extended educator exam preparation for bilingual and ESL certification. For our community engagement, we've increased our number of parent meetings, which offer information for parents, starting with literacy for the pre-K student, building all the way up to graduation requirements. We've been able to use Parent Square strategically, and parents have really appreciated that and reached out to us because we've been able to send out in multiple languages information before they receive it. So they've been able to receive information about SAT prep before the students are getting it at the school level. We've also incorporated to help our students licenses for Rosetta Stone, which is an online language building. So we have 300 CFB parents that are currently using Rosetta Stone to build their English language. We continue to work towards equitable grade level access to all our students while helping them build the English language. Thank you.
Thank you. Board members, are there any questions? Yes, Ms. Benavides.
I wanted to know, for the 837 new students, is there other support since they're new arrivals?
Yes, our newcomer students receive some extended supports at all levels K through 12. I'll speak for the secondary and I'll let Ms. Christensen speak for the, at the secondary level they do have classes that are targeted for them, and that has been there has been some professional development around receiving the large number of students that we have. We've increased the paraprofessionals. We've kind of reorganized how they're moving in to push into classrooms to help students, and the Imagine Learning software is specifically for our newcomers. I don't know if you have something to add for elementary.
Yes, at the elementary level, we have the most concentration of the newcomers in 4 of our schools. McCamey, McWhorter, and Sheffield, and Stark. And what we are doing is that we have new paraprofessionals that are pushing in as well, but we also have some collaboration when the teachers do PLCs. They're getting support from the bilingual, other bilingual teachers or the bilingual coaches in order to offer accommodations for the students. Ms. Hartman the other day made a comment about the 5th grade in McCamey, that the teacher is doing a lot of this accommodation. She's also participating in the Newcomer Institute, but she said that the teacher posed a question and all hands went up. And half of the kids in that classroom are newcomers from Venezuela. They don't speak English.
I had the pleasure of reading to them the other day
Oh, that's
in
awesome.
Spanish, so I was challenged too. But as far as other support, is communities and schools or Concilio or Giving House, are there other options for them, things that they need in the home? I mean, do y'all find that we're assisting them with needs in that manner?
I think they've been able to find a lot of needs. Our schools are very intuitive about those things. Teachers immediately already have some things set up. A lot of our schools already have steps in place also for as students are arriving to be able to assist them in all areas.
Wonderful.
We've been able to, as they come in to test, we've been able to give them a backpack with school supplies and headsets with microphone to help them with the virtual learning. So I think we've been able to find all areas that they've been able to get assistance.
That's wonderful. As far as the accommodations, is that the testing, is that something read to them, or what accommodations did they receive during the testing?
So depending on the accommodation, so they're able to take both STAR tests in Spanish because it's available up to 5th grade. It's not available past that. So, but we are working really hard to prepare them to be on level academically so they can take the STAR in Spanish. Some of them are coming with interrupted education, and in those cases, the state grants us a period of time to bring them up to speed. Not so much in elementary, but in secondary, we see more of those kids with interrupted education, and it's sometimes it's heartbreaking, but we're working really, really hard to bring them up, and that's part of the work that Olivia is doing.
Yes, at the secondary level, we do receive what is considered SIFE students. They're students with interrupted formal education. So sometimes we may have a 9th grader arrive and they haven't been in school since 3rd grade. Mm-hmm. So we have some different initiatives kind of built in to work with those students. Accommodations can always be done in the classroom, and then testing offers some different accommodations for students as well. When they take the online linguistically accommodated test, they can hover over certain things and it'll give them a different synonym for that word. Mm-hmm. Some of the words that do not have to do with the content can give them a translation, and some of the things can be read aloud. So some of the professional development we've done with teachers has been on showing students how to take what they know in their first language to add on to their second language, breaking down questions to understand how to get to what they're looking for.
Mm-hmm. That's good. When I was there reading the other day, I was at McCamey actually, so I was with a lot of the Venezuelan children, and I noticed there's a lot of tragedy that we spoke a lot, interaction while I was reading. And as far as their mental health and the loss of loved ones and their tragedy coming over here, their experience, is there assistance for them? I mean, what do y'all do to help them?
One of the things our paraprofessionals are doing, they're pushing in, is also we are blessed to have 3 Venezuelans as paraprofessionals helping them, so they understand the culture. Another one of the paraprofessionals, she's from Colombia, so she also understands the culture because it's very similar. They have been able to reach the kids in order to make them feel safe and productive. I'm not at the campus level, so that it's a great question, but I know that McCamey and McWhorter and Sheffield are working really, really hard to serve them and offer them a safe environment where they feel that they can learn.
Yes, the teachers were very supportive, and I felt the unity there. It was great. My last question is regarding the hotline. Who answers that hotline?
The hotline is run, so you come into a virtual room, and we have a bilingual receptionist. The students have already signed up. So when they come in, depending on their content, so we have 4 different bilingual teachers that are in the breakout rooms. So if they come in and say, I'm working on my night school English course, then they're put into the ELA room. If they have a math, they're put in with the math teacher, but they're all bilingual, and so they break out into the different rooms.
And is that for all ages, or who
At this
generally
time,
uses it?
At this time, the ones really needing it and using it are the secondary. We have had a few of the elementary students that have popped in occasionally, but for the most part, it's secondary that has needed and used it the most.
Thank you very much. That was wonderful. Thank you.
Any other questions from board members? Ms. Derrick?
Hello. I want to thank y'all both for all your hard work. This is excellent to see increases when we are experiencing numbers. I mean, such a jump. So my first question is about the jump in numbers to the 837 this year. Do we have any idea of, like, why has there been such a big jump? What caused that? Where did they come from? Are they all coming from the same countries? Can you speak a little bit to that?
Some not. Some of it has been due to the pandemic. Some of the borders were closed off and it was more difficult. In years past, we've had about 500-600. When we had the caravan come through, we had about 700. But most of ours have been seeking refugee asylum. The majority of our students this year are arriving from Venezuela. We continue to receive students from Honduras. We've had a few from Afghanistan, Guatemala, El Salvador, but the majority this year are coming from Venezuela.
Okay, so the 290 is more of the anomaly, and then the 837 is getting a little bit.
Usually 300 to 500.
Okay, is
what
more
we
than normal.
receive. Yes.
Okay, and so would you say majority Spanish-speaking countries?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, and then the other question I have, just for my knowledge, so emergent bilingual, the EB title,
Yes.
or the previous title that we used, the EL, once they get that label, does that stay with them forever, or is there a cutoff? How does that work?
So students with, so the state has a designation in order to share that information with the federal government as well. So when the students are English proficient, they don't get that label anymore. So it's a label saying that they're emerging in their English. So once they are proficient in English, then they continue in the system as a monitor for 4 more years. So we monitor their progress, but they're not using that label anymore. But we know they're bilingual.
So what would you say, like, how long are most kids staying in that title? Like, I'm just curious for the numbers, are these kids that have been in it for 6 years, or not necessarily?
Depends.
Okay.
It depends.
That's fair.
If a student arrives and they have been educated all their years and they have a strong level of literacy in their first language, within 3 to 4 years, they're more than likely going to reclassify out of emergent bilingual into the regular ed without any coding. However, if the students have arrived as SIFE with significant educational gaps, then we're looking at 6+. And typically, though, if they arrive in elementary, they'll be out by middle school. But I will say our high schools are going above and beyond. They get them in 9th grade. Sometimes they haven't been educated in 3 or 4 years, and we're pushing them through, and they're graduating. Sometimes 5-year graduates, but they're graduating. But our teachers are pushing through. Students are going to night school. They're going to summer school. Sometimes they're also holding down full-time jobs. So it depends on the student, 3 to 4, sometimes 6+.
Okay, and that makes sense. Yeah, it just depends on their background. Mm-hmm. Would you say our 35% population is pretty average compared to districts? Are we higher than most? Okay.
The state is around a little above 25%, not even 25%, but around that number, and we're 35%.
And even around our districts in this area, would you say we're higher than?
Well, Dallas is huge, but if we compare ourselves with other schools around, we are pretty high.
Okay.
Not compare. I mean, Irving has a large number as well, but comparing ourselves to, I mean, not talking Coppell, but the areas Plano and Richardson, we are much higher.
Okay, well, I want to applaud y'all for the work you're doing, because this, I mean, that's a challenging number for sure, and I think we're making gains, which we should be proud of. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, let me kind of move to Mr. Shackman first, and I'll come back to you, Ms. Benavides. Mr. Shackman?
I want to add my kudos. Thank you for the report and the information. And bouncing off of a question Ms. Derrick was asked, the big jump from 290 to 837, I hear the idea, so we're average would be more like 400, but that's still a pretty significant jump. Is there any way that we can forecast or project? Is this something that we expect to see, that we'll continue to see large increases in this area? And of course, one of the reasons that is important to us, we want quality education, you're doing it, but funding becomes an issue when we start talking about needing extra teachers and support. And so I'm just kind of curious about the trend that you see there.
So it has to do a lot with politics, not in the United States, but worldwide. What happened in Venezuela is there is a big exodus, and they're coming through Mexico. So they go to Mexico and they travel up to the border, and when they cross the border, they cross in daylight. And they, as soon as they step on American soil, they raise their hands and ask for ICE to get them, because they know that as soon as they get the border police gets them, they get asylum. And they cannot travel by plane, which was the way they came before, and mostly to Florida, because they don't have a way to get an American visa anymore. So that's the way they're coming. And I grew up in Venezuela, so that's why I get a little emotional. The thing is that they're desperate. So they are coming here because they found a place that is welcoming and that it's receiving them with open arms. So there's a pocket of apartments around Marsh, right? And they're all moving there. So that's why we have this big old increase. This increase in numbers have happened in all Texas. There's 3 million. The Venezuelan population is 30 million people, and about 5 to 6 million are out of the country.
And like she said, it has to do with the politics. We really watch a lot, and we're in tune with our local DFW chapter of Bilingual ESL. And so we start researching and we prepare. Like now, we're already preparing in case we get students from the Ukraine. Like we prepare for that. We go ahead and buy the bilingual dictionaries. We go ahead and look and see what resources we're going to need. So we knew this was happening. We've also received a few asylees from Afghanistan. So we typically just watch for that. The federal government does offer some bilingual education allotment funds based on the number of immigrants. So that can sometimes help out in some ways. It's limited what you can use with that, but that can help out in some ways with the resources. But we do research and plan ahead for that.
But sometimes the numbers can be overwhelming in the case that that little pocket of people just bringing more people, and you know how it is. Oh, my friend lives here, so because of our nature, they feel very welcome here. So.
Okay, Ms. Benavides, did you have an additional question?
I was going to ask the financing, thank you, Randy, but one question I did want to ask about the high school children. Are you finding that they're having to support their families, or what kind of stress do they have to go through?
There's different, the Venezuelans are coming as family units.
Great.
And so most of those students have had schooling, and so they have the support at home, the motivation, and the majority of the secondary Venezuelans are not working. The ones who typically work are unaccompanied minors, which typically come from Honduras, El Salvador, Guatemala.
Thank you.
Mr. Bacek?
Echoing the comments, thank you for this work and the information. I mean, I like the picture of students landing in CFB, being nurtured and pushed for academic excellence by you and your team and our teachers and administrators and everyone on the campus. I need to ask a question, and you probably already said it, and I was just impressed with the numbers, and I missed it. So for clarification, apologies. On 5 and 6 on the tables with the comparison with Star 21 and to Winter Map 22, are these the same, 4th grade Spanish and then the 5th grade, are these the same students a year later? I mean, this is the same cohort, I think is the word, right?
Yes, so that's why we don't have 3rd grade, because
Okay,
we didn't
okay,
want to have
okay.
historical. So they're the same kids. And there's a little variance. I mean, we will have 10 kids more here, 15 kids more there.
Right.
But it's the same group of kids. The only area where they're not exactly the same cohort is in 6th grade, because we have some of our kids who are still LEP or emergent bilingual are coming from the bilingual program, so they might have tested in Spanish. So that is the only caveat, but the rest of the kids are compared, it's the same cohort of kids.
Okay, well then, that just makes even more amazing, so, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, I think I see Mr. Ramos's hand up. Go ahead, Mr. Ramos.
Well, we're not experts here, but we're going to try to address that question. So my understanding, I used to work as an assistant principal at Central Elementary, and we had, mostly is emergent bilinguals there. The diagnosticians assess language first, and then once they determine the dominant language, then they can continue with the assessment. But they usually assess in both languages if the child is coming from a bilingual background, in order to see if there is an area where they are stronger in one language than the other, because that happens a lot. Some kids might be stronger in one area of knowledge in one language and then in another area of knowledge in another language. So what we need to do is bridge those two. So the state of Texas doesn't allow us not to test the kids. So we have to test them. What we get is, if they have not had interrupted education, we get a year of grace. That means that if they're newcomers, probably their scores won't count. But the following year, it will, or they will. If the kids have interrupted education, then we get a little bit more time. And that's Olivia's area.
Well, if the student is SIFE, we have to prove that they are SIFE limited with formal education gaps. We have to prove that through parental interviews and transcripts, and then their scores will not count that first year. But if a student arrives in January, they're taking all of their STAR tests that spring. And at the elementary, while they do have the option of taking them in Spanish, that's not the case in secondary. So if a student arrives tomorrow in CFB at the secondary level, they're taking their EOC tests in English.
And their TELPAS.
And TELPAS.
If they arrive today, they will be taking TELPAS tomorrow. or Monday.
Skewing which numbers?
The start.
Oh, well, when we get results, you're able to pull out if they are emergent bilinguals. Assessment and Accountability Department really do a lot of work with that, and they can pull different things out, and they can filter to give us information on that, because we can also go down as fine grain as going classroom by classroom and pulling some of that information and filtering for that.
But it will count if they have been here for more than a year. So that's why we work so hard to bring them up to speed. And in some cases, if they're SIFE, we can always argue for a few more years that they're not counting in our accountability up to 5 years. But it requires a lot of documentation that not always the parents are willing to share, because in some cases they're very ashamed and embarrassed. So we have to work really, really carefully to assess exactly where the kids are and how much education they had. It's a really, really nice work our parents do, because they speak the language, so they really build that relationship with them in order to get that information.
Any,
So there are a few different things that we do. Start in the spring, in the end of March, at middle school. We'll have any students that arrived in February coming to some Saturday institutes where we do some of that acculturation, going through some of the norms in our schools and trying to get them up. There are lots of lessons built into our curriculum, and so lessons built into the curriculum to help them come into the U.S. and help them, like going through the lunch line. They partner up with a buddy and they teach them to go through the lunch line, things like that. Immediately teaching them the school terminology with pictures and flashcards, and doing like school field trips where you're walking through the school and doing scavenger hunts to find and establish where you need to be, emergency words that they would need. And we also have lessons built into the curriculum to help with trauma, SEL lessons. So we have different things like that built in. And our ESL teachers are truly amazing. They can break students up into groups and be working with a group while another group is working on something else. And so they've really been able to build that into the classrooms.
And elementary is a little bit more sheltered, so that's a blessing of elementary. But still, we have our paraprofessionals that we we just hired them this year. There is one of them, for example, that follows the 5th grade classroom where half of the kids are newcomers from Venezuela. She follows them to all their classes. So she's just there to support them and not to translate and make everything, babyish or watered down, but truly support them into being responsive to the teaching. So we have those supports in place. Might not be enough, but we are giving them the opportunity to really feel like they're going to be successful with us. There's always a lot we could do. We reached out to Matt Pruitt, who is the principal at McCamey, and we have planned to go there and have meetings with parents and with teachers as well to show them a little bit of the differences, because one of the things that is a shock to the teachers is that these kids coming from Venezuela are very different from our typical bilingual student. They're a little bit in your face, and they group together. So they have some differences that the teachers are a little, caught out of, hand with them. So we have that plan of just giving them some background and some support so they can understand a little bit of that different culture. Sometimes in those bilingual classrooms, we will have kids from 5 to 6 different countries, and each one comes with a different cultural background, and some of them come with severe trauma. So those teachers are really working and asking for help to support that. I think that if we can offer some support as community outreach or things like that will be excellent. We have some things in place with that, but I think the amount of kids is a little overwhelming right now. Thank you.
Are there any further questions from board members? Well, you guys got questions from every single board member. I just, I don't have a question. Oh, I'm sorry. Now you've got a question from every single board member but me. Ms. Hatfield, go ahead.
So in some cases are not just the bilingual coaches. It could be the ESL teachers. The bilingual ESL teachers in campuses are also supporting the students and supporting the teachers. So the bilingual coaches support the teachers, the language arts teachers. However, the ESL teachers have been in the mix also to support with language structures because they're a full-time person at those campuses. So that has been also an extra line of support. From our department, we have been training teachers and offering resources and support for them. Also accommodated and texts. For example, we bought this year sets that are what we call low readability, high interest, means that is 4th and 5th grade material, but on a reading level that is more like 1st or 2nd. So the students don't feel like I'm reading baby material. It's materials on their level with the size of the font of a 5th grader, not this font. So the kids feel like, okay, I'm learning and this is on level material. The reading level is not, the material it is. So we're doing that support.
But all of our coaches, including math, science, social studies, they all attend the professional development. They meet with our department. They have access to the resources. It's really very collaborative, and the majority are also really reaching out to ensure that that ESL portion is taken care of in the classroom. So all of our ELA coaches are also ESL. Like it's a blend, like they're all working together.
Yes. Thank you.
I'll ask again, any further questions from the board? I'm sorry, Ms. Hatfield, I looked right past your monitor last time. I do want to thank you both for your time in the presentation tonight and for standing here and answering all these questions, which your answers have been very informative, and just echo the gratitude that other board members have expressed to you and to your whole Bilingual ESL team across the district. It's we know how hard it's been for everybody, and particularly when you're seeing this rapid rise in numbers, it makes it harder. And so it's really encouraging to see charts with green on them and to see the progress that's being made with our kids out there, and these are our kids. So thank you for everything you do. We will move to item 4B, which is our budget update. So this is Mr. Guerra.
Thank you, Dr. Black. It's in the green packet. It's just kind of a snapshot breakdown of the big financials that y'all get in the big board packet. And I want to kind of start off first and talk about the bilingual program. I know you talked a little bit about the finance side, but I can tell you that we're doing finance budget meetings right now. So I met with these two ladies last week, and like I tell you, they were equally impressive as their knowledge of their budget, and not just saying I want this, they're saying I need this, and they know how their budget works in and out, and they were trying to move money around to be, responsible with their dollars and try to move their dollars and expend them as best as they can. So it was really impressive. And Dr. West and I sat in there. I'm trying to keep my budget poker face, not smile at them, but it was really impressive how they acted and how they were responsible with their budget. So it was easy to approve what they wanted. So those are the fun budget meetings. Okay, so as you know, the last board meeting I gave you the budget calendar for the district, and as a board you approve basically three funds: the general fund, the debt service fund, and the child nutrition fund. So I thought I would just kind of speak to all those three funds a little bit, as well as our tax increment funds, which is our more commonly known as our TIF funds. And then, like I said, this is what I'll talk about tonight. I'll give you a brief breakdown on how we're looking at ESSER as well. So our student nutrition update, as you know, last year was a real struggle. They're not It's frozen. Finance is fun, right? Okay, so again, the topics, I'll talk briefly about student nutrition. I'll talk about our general fund, and everything will be like actual revenues to expenses. Kind of gives you a snapshot of how we look about halfway through the school year. So I was saying, as you know, the student nutrition was a real struggle last year with COVID hitting and the funding being down. So as you know, we had about a $1.4 million loss in revenue. So we hit the fund balance. So it took a little hit last year, but it seems the federal government, TDA, they're all aware of that. So they've actually raised our SFFP reimbursement for this year. So it's helped bring in more revenue to the district for the child nutrition. But as you know, with the supplies chains being hit and prices going up for food and everything, it's really been a struggle to kind of get that as well. So they're anticipating more relief, but at this point, they haven't announced anything yet. But even that being said, Kristen Hess, who's our director of student nutrition, has done a really phenomenal job, in my opinion, of dealing with staff shortages, dealing with food shortages. I mean, she was telling me the other day that, you know, they'll order, for instance, like hamburgers, and that morning they'll say, okay, you're not getting hamburgers, you're getting hot dogs. And they don't even have not even a day to realize or to change their menu. So they're really changing on the fly, and she does everything with a positive attitude and a smile all the time. So it's been really hard, but she's really gone above and beyond trying to keep her department, keep her morale up. And on the finance side, like I said, we tend to be the checkbook that we're known as, but she's really done her part to kind of not have that same loss as last year. So we're looking at, we won't have any more hits to their fund balance, and they're going to probably turn a little bit of a profit this year, which is good. So this is just the breakdown of the general revenue funds. So this is the adopted budget, and it shows that you know, we had a $323 million budget basically, and at this point we've expended about $121 million. So we've spent about 37.5% of our budget, which is about normal for the year. The first semester is usually a little bit slower than the second semester, but at 37% of the budget expended, it's a really good position to be in. And you can see on the revenue side, again, like I said, we had a $323 million. We've had a balanced budget this year, and we've actually received about $271 million of our anticipated revenue, and this was through January 31st. So we've received, you know, the bulk of our revenue as well already, and it's about 75%. And again, this was through the end of January, so we have all of February's tax collections and revenue that we've taken in. So we're in a good position general fund-wise. The tax increment funds that I was explaining to you about, I don't know, everybody probably knows what the TIF funds are. The TIF funds were tax increment funds, and they were developed by the state to kind of help rejuvenate areas, rejuvenate buildings, and trying to attract businesses and people into the community. So what it did, and the increment means that they were hoping to get other people in, other businesses in. This way that tax increment goes up, which means obviously the revenue goes up. So they allotted, you know, these kind of TIF funds to districts, and we were allotted actually 3 funds. One's in Irving and 2 are in Farmers Branch. And so this TIF fund, we have this year, coming in this year, we had $27 million in our TIF fund, and we expended a little over $2 million. So at the end of the year, we'll still have around $26 million. So we're still well positioned for our TIF funds to do what we need to do in the Irving area. The other 2 TIF funds, like I said, we work closely with Malcolm, and there's 7.1 in TIF 1 and 1.3 in TIF Fund 2. The construction fund that Mr. Mulroney-Macron will talk about in a little bit, as you know, is about a $390 million fund that was broken up into 2 sections, the 2019 bond and the 2021 bond. The first one was about $145 million, and there's about $27.5 million left. And like I said, we run a month behind, so Malcolm will have a little more updated thing. But what I try to do is the business office, we try to look from above and look down and kind of make sure that, one, we have more revenue than expenses, and when we have, and everything's coming in budget and under budget construction-wise. And like I said, the other one is the newest fund. It was a little over $200 million, 217, and we spent almost $12 million as of January 31st. So there's $205 million that's left for the projects that we have the money promised for.
Let me just make one clarification, because we said 2018 bond and 2021 bond. It's all 2018 bond. It's just when it was issued out of that 2018 bond. So I don't want everybody going, wait, what? Another bond? And it's one bond, 2018, just issuance of that bond funds, of that 350.
Yeah, that's correct. It was all the 2018 sale. We just took it out in 2 parts, and it's divided into 2 sections, the 2019 allotment and the 2021 allotment. So I just talked about, like I said, we are monitoring our budgets, and it's with COVID hitting and the ADA being down, like I said, we're expecting some relief from the state, but we're still trying to be responsible with the campuses, with the departments, and with the budget overall. So we're asking all our campuses and departments to kind of use the budget that they have before they start asking for any kind of additional funds. We ask them to move money in between their functions to, like I said, we give them one pot of money. We want them to expend that pot before they start asking. This way they're kind of forecasting what they need, and towards the end of the year, if there's something that they need, then it's something they can ask for. So, and like I said, we try to keep everything, you know, in accordance with purchasing law, which purchase orders, we always say they have to be approved and in hand first before any purchase can go. We always tell the campuses, if you don't have a PO, then you can't go. So, you know, they really don't have to understand purchasing law other than if you have a PO, then you're good to go with your purchase, with your whatever you want to secure, good or service. So, and then I just want to give a brief update on our ESSER funds. As you know, ESSER 2 and 3, we blended into the $55 million pot that was allocated for teachers and for stuff to help with learning loss. ESSER 1 is probably fully expended at this point, but I just wanted to show you total what we got as a district from the ESSER funds 1, 2, and 3. So this is the blend between ESSER 2 and ESSER 3. And this is the part that was allocated strictly to salaries. So you can see the total that we have is about $42.6 million that's allocated for, as you can see, teachers and support staff, counselors, everything, nurses, assistants, coaches, all that's part of the ESSER plan. And the rest of the ESSER money, 13.3, is everything that was, this is the part that's non-staff related. So it's utilities, it's the summer school program, CCMR, just supplies that we need to help with the learning loss. So if there's any questions on any of the reports, I'll take them now.
Questions from the board regarding the presentation?
And can I make one comment too before we get going? You know, Mr. Guetta and the team has been working on the ESSER funds and what are we doing with those monies, because all those monies weren't spent last year, and it's a 2-year rollout. We will be coming to the board next month for a proposal using some additional ESSER funds, which we'll talk about more at a greater depth next month. You did get a board memo with some options that will benefit our staff in the future, but knowing that we're fine-tuning that now to see what is that last available funds for those pieces. So just know that's coming.
Okay, Ms. Benavides?
Sir, when you spoke earlier about a profit on the food, is that normal, or do we want to have a profit for our food budget?
No, well, you say profit. You want to have more revenue than expenses. You don't ever want to turn a profit because we're not in it for profit, but we want to normally break even or have a little bit, like I said, obviously have more revenue than expenses. This way we're not hitting the general fund, which does affect our other things in the budget. But yeah, we always try to break even, have a little bit of profit. Any profit we have goes into a separate fund balance that's strictly for child nutrition. Yes, and that's how we buy equipment. That's how we upgrade kitchens, upgrade appliances, stuff that's needed. We use that with the fund balance from student nutrition.
Okay, and then Dr. Chapman, I don't remember what was in that memo, and forgive me, but is that incentives for our teachers?
Well, we'll be talking more about that next month. We really need to do some fine tuning before we make any statements, publicly. But for sure, April board meeting will have some information available. We need to check with some regulations and some other things because this is federal dollars.
Okay.
So we'll get back on that.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Any other questions? Ms. Derrick?
I want to build off of Dr. Chapman's statement about the ESSER funds. How much of the $55 million do we have left?
There's around $38 million left
Okay.
that we have through the end of 23-24 school year to finish.
So
2 more years.
that's next school year, or that's the year after? Okay,
2
so we
years.
still have some time on that money. Okay.
Yes, absolutely. And we do meet monthly as a group and discuss ESSER funds. Like I said, where there was, I believe, 233 teachers or staff members that were allowed under the ESSER plan. And just, as you know, was just unable to hire so many. So when these funds are left over, that's when we start looking at different options on how to use those funds, because if we don't use them, we lose them.
Right,
So we want to make sure we use all $55 million.
Okay, so about $33 million left in 2 more years to figure it out. Okay.
38, yes, ma'am.
38, sorry. Thank you.
And so what if, I know the question may come up, but what if we had 230 positions and we only hired 204 last year? Are we still looking for that 230 positions this next year?
Yes, sir, that is correct. That is correct. Even though we aren't able to fill those positions, there is still the need for the ESSER teachers and the ESSER staff to help with the learning loss. So if we can find those positions and we are fully staffed, we are trying to hire those positions. Yes, sir. Yes, Dr. West.
Any other questions? Make sure I look at those two monitors. Okay. I don't see any other questions, so thank you very much, Mr. Guerra, for the presentation.
Thank you, Dr. Black.
We'll move to agenda item 4C, which is our House Bill 3 middle of the year board goals. So I think this is Dr. Parker. Oh, you're already there.
Thank you. It's all right. Okay, good evening. First of all, to let everybody know that tonight's presentation, hard copies are found behind the light blue handout tonight for student outcomes. Tonight we're going to be sharing an update on student performance outcomes based on the most recent administration of the MAP testing. We are going to start with Shashawn Campbell, our coordinator of student performance. She will begin by providing a background on the test, as well as the participation rate and information about the student growth measures. Then we'll take a look at our STAR projected proficiency rates anticipated for our reading and math that we have at this point in time at the middle of the year, and we'll close the presentation with a recap on the proposed revisions to our House Bill 3 board goals.
Good evening, Dr. Chapman, Dr. Black, and members of the board. I'm Shashawn Campbell. It's a pleasure to present this evening to all of you. In CFB, math growth is administered 3 times a year. It is an adaptive test, which means as students get questions correct, the test becomes more challenging. As students miss questions, the questions become easier, ultimately deciding where students are ready to learn. In math, we use it to measure growth over the year for our students. From year to year, we're able to see how our students are progressing, as well as able to use the data points for GT identification, special education, RTI, and this year we've added our teacher incentive allotment to our MAP data. We currently are testing our students in kindergarten through 12th grade in reading, kindergarten through 12th grade in mathematics and algebra 1 this year, as well as science grades 4 through 10. We have recently added in our geometry tests and our algebra 2 tests into our high schools, as well as our 9th and 10th graders that are taking biology. Over 85% of our students took a reading test, and 96% of our students took a math test this winter. Due to COVID and the ISD, we extended the winter window by providing extra days of testing. The winter window closed on February 2nd for our students. This table shows the overall participation of students that were tested and the breakdown by test. You'll notice that there were 14,876 kindergarten through 12th grade students that took the math test. This includes our special education students. Our special education students take the MAP test based on their IEPs. We believe that MAP benefits all of our students and provides valuable data to help drive instruction to meet the needs of our learners. Notice that there is an increase in the number of reading tests this winter, with a slight decrease in math and science. This may be due to the fact that reading is administered during the first week of the window, and by the second and third weeks of the window, we started noticing that classrooms were quarantining. Students are out and teachers are out, and so therefore we're noticing that drop in our data for participation. This is our student growth summary report that we like to use in our district. What this report shows is, as I mentioned earlier, MAP projects growth from students based on national norms. And it shows how much a student is supposed to grow from season to season or from the fall to the spring in some situations when we're looking at that data. When looking at this chart, we can see that overall students are growing in reading. The rectangle represents the observed growth for the grade level, and the rhombus, or diamond as some like to say, represents the projected growth for the student group. I'd like to draw your attention to the kindergarten bar. We had over 1,700 students test in kindergarten, and out of that 1,700, we had 56% of our students meeting or exceeding their projected growth in kindergarten. based on the national norm, typical growth for for a grade level, meeting projected growth is 50%. So we are above the national norm with 56% of our students in kindergarten meeting or exceeding their projected growth. Notice that we have several grade levels approaching the 50%. In analyzing our MAP data, we noticed that in grade 1, 39% of our students met the projected growth, which is up slightly compared to the year 2021. During the 2021 school year, we noticed that the testing environment in our primary grades was different than this year. We had students testing remotely and in class, so we had that mix of in-person and remote. And so we noticed that our scores were a little bit higher in the primary because we may have had some assistance at home. It's just easy to help our little people. In analyzing our fall to winter MAP growth data and looking at the last 5 years, the last 2 years in grade 1 appear to be an anomaly, and those are our 2 COVID years. We notice that in the past years that over 50% of our students in the primary grades, especially in grade 1, are typically at 50% or higher, meeting or exceeding their growth. It's just with COVID, we're noticing that there's a dip, and we're starting to turn the journey around in that area. In our middle schools, you'll also notice that the rhombus is not meeting the rectangle. We're noticing that typically our middle school students are hitting around 45% of the students meeting growth, and so our plan is to work with campuses and helping students understand where they are and how much they need to grow from season to season. In mathematics, we are noticing that students are growing, so we were celebrating this data. The data table represents kindergarten through 8th grade. Notice the majority of our grade levels are at 50% or more of our students growing from fall to winter, which is a celebration knowing that having students back in class, all the hard work that our teachers are doing with students, we're starting to see the turnaround even with COVID. Algebra 1, Geometry, Algebra 2, we're also noticing our students are growing. On average, even though those are new tests, we're noticing that they've grown about 4 points. In science, we're also celebrating growth. Overall, in grades 4 through 8th, we're seeing our students are approaching that projected growth. So we're starting to make some gains in our learning for our students. So you may be wondering, what support do we need to provide to campuses as we move into this next window of MAP? We take it one more time in the spring, which that window will open April 11th. We will, at the end of the winter window, what we did was we trained campus leadership, instructional coaches, specialists, teachers on these 3 reports that you see up front on the screen. This data does not reflect any of CFB's data. These are the actual sample reports from the NWEA site, so it's not our student data that you're seeing if you zoom in closely. The first report that you'll notice with the quadrant or the rectangle that has the colored squares in there, that is our achievement status and growth summary report, and that helps our teachers and campus leadership know how much students are growing from season to season, and if students are not growing enough, then that's where we start thinking about what's our plan to turn the trajectory around for students. Our middle chart, which is our class breakdown, that is a quick report that teachers can use to start thinking about what do they need to do for Tier 1 instruction, and then what small groups can they start to pull from this data based on where students are ready to learn. And then the third document you see up there is our learning continuum, and our learning continuum narrows down what a student is ready to learn so a teacher can go in and make an actionable plan to move the students forward. Thank you for your time this evening. I will now turn it over to Dr. Parker, who will be sharing with you information on our student performance.
Thank you so much. As Shashawn Campbell shared with you at the very beginning, we do use MAP to establish our growth measures, but also provide opportunities for STAR projected proficiencies. Here we can see that the STAR performance standards are divided into 4 different categories. Approaches grade level, meets grade level, and master's grade level. These are the passing standards for our students that are based on the STAR test. In 2019, NWEA released a linking study aligning their RIT scores that our students earn to projected proficiency levels on the STAR test in the areas of reading and math for grades 3 through 8, as well as science in grades 5 and 8. In addition, as I shared before, in addition to that progress monitoring on student growth, following each administration of MAP testing, we also track where students are projected to perform on the STAR test. So this particular slide is the overall district student performance, and we're going to look at 3 different components of it, and we're going to look specifically at the areas of reading and math. Once again, these tests are all overall, so it's a combination of projected proficiencies for tests in grades 3 through 8, including our EOC test takers. So the first set of information that's on the far left details reading. The first bar is the percent of students that scored at the MEETS grade level or above last spring on the 2021 STAR test. Recall that MEETS and master's grade level are the students that are performing at the higher level. In other words, they're answering anywhere between 60 to 75, 76% of the questions correctly or more on the STAR test. The second bar that's in gray, this represents the projected proficiency rate of students scoring at the MEETS or master's grade level when the students took the first administration of MAP testing back in the fall. We call that beginning of the year, and often you might see the acronym BOY, beginning of the year MAP testing that occurred in the fall. The third bar in red is the overall projected proficiency for MEETS or master's grade level based on the most recent administration of MAP testing that occurred between January 10th and February the 2nd. So we can see on the far left information based on overall for our students in the performance of reading, and then on the far right is math. So while it's sometimes difficult to make those comparisons, we're still having on our STAR test last spring, we had almost, a large percentage of our students came in to actually test. We were very close with approximately almost 88% of our students testing. MAP testing, we're much higher in our participation rate. We saw a little bit of tiny little decline back here in the wintertime, but it's pretty close to most of our students taking a MAP test and seeing. When we look at the comparison between STAR projected proficiency last spring to where we are right now, we're pretty much on track to maintaining where we are, but we still have a number of months to go before the May round of testing that's going to occur coming up when a great preponderance of our students do take the STAR and EOC test. We're going to take a look specifically now at grade 3 STAR performance. Once again, the projected proficiency rates are based on the combined MEETS and master's grade level performances. In grade 3, we're currently on track for a 2 percentage point increase in the area of reading and a 14% increase in the area of math. Once again, I shared our next round of MAP testing is coming up in April 11th through the 29th, and this will occur approximately 3 to 4 weeks prior to the state testing. At this point in time, I'll now turn the presentation over to Tracy Smith, the Assistant Superintendent for Teaching and Learning, to share information related to the House Bill 3 board goals.
Thank you, Dr. Parker. You all saw this at the last board meeting when we had a chance to share with you all of our work, group's work to set the goals for the House Bill 3 in round reading and mathematics. Just a reminder to you, as Dr. Parker talked about a minute ago, these goals are set for the percentage of students who meet and master the test, the 2 highest levels. So this doesn't take into account the approaches, which is good. We want kids to approach, but the meets and masters level really means that they're ready to go into that next grade level, ready for all of the grade level curriculum. So it is a lofty goal, but a goal that is very meaningful for our students and one that we're dedicated to meet. So just a quick refresher of how we set those goals, because at the end of tonight, we're going to ask that you consider these and let us know if this is the direction you want us to continue in to move student achievement forward for all students, but particularly our 3rd graders. So just a refresher for you, we took a look at the state's data. Always want to be ahead of the state because CFB is doing that kind of work. And then we said, where are we as a district in both 2019 and 2021, and then how do we set a goal for 2024? So with that, we did lots of talk, lots of dialogue, lots of really racking our brains to what is the best thing for students in our district. Lofty, but attainable. We think those 2 things are really important. So what we decided to go with in both the area of reading and mathematics was to ask for us to return to the 2019 and exceed 2019. So you'll see highlighted in green that at the district level, we were at 43% in 2019 at the meets and masters level, and our goal is to return and exceed in 2024 to 46%. With that, that is a 3 to 4% point gain in each year. When you talk to the state and start listening to what is an attainable goal, they talk anywhere between 2 to 4 points. And so we think that 3 is very doable and a challenge goal for us. So then we did that same extrapolation across all of our sub-pops, because not only do we want to meet the needs of our students as a whole, we also want to equitably and equally serve our students so that all students succeed, not just some, but all. So we set goals for each of the sub-pops as well that are shown on the slide in front of you. Want you to notice the column that's highlighted in yellow. We also wanted to set one stretch goal. And so we really debated which sub-pop did we take to set the stretch goal. And we decided in, again, both of our subject areas that we would set it with our economically disadvantaged students, as we have students who are African American, Hispanic, white, American Indian, special ed, all of those subpopulations that are represented in our economically disadvantaged population. So we believe that setting our goal around that will raise achievement for all of our students. So you'll see that in that area, excuse me, I'm going to sneeze and I don't want to, we have set a goal of 6 points in that area. So you'll notice 5 is kind of that area that they say is getting on the high side. We went a little bit higher than that in that area to make sure that we're really taking on a worthy goal. And then in the kind of peachish color at the bottom of your slide, it looks more yellowish, but I know on your papers it is peach. Those were the prior House Bill 3 targets that were approved by you in 2017. So you can see that comparison. We're not quite back where we wanted to be at the beginning, but nothing is worse than working and working and working and not setting and achieving those goals that you wanted. So we appreciate you even considering letting us talk about these. And again, just very quickly going through the reading, we again set that same goal like I talked about before, this time proposing that we go from 46% in 2019 to 49% in 2024, with again, our economically disadvantaged being our stretch goal moving forward in that area as well. And then, as you remember, Dr. Hamlin, who was imitating Joe Gillen with a poor voice at our last board meeting, he was presenting to you that we also have done a lot of analysis and talk about our CCMR goals. And Ms. Gillen and her department looked at the SAT and the PSAT data and said what we really need to do is to do a reset in 2021 and go back to where we were in 2019, and then move forward by 2 percentage points every year. This is still above where we have been in the past. The group thinks that it is a stretch goal for them as well, especially with just some of the interrupted learning that we've had in the past, but they feel that they too could meet these goals by 2024 through monitoring student progress, working closely with the campuses, and making sure that we are well on track. And then finally, I know that you all see this all the time, and you're going to continue to see it all the time, because it is not just a document, it is really what we are living in our district, making sure that everything that we do aligns with the 5 that drive. The more that our teachers, our staff, and administrators see that, the more that we can help them to see the cohesiveness between what we're doing, that it all makes sense in student achievement. We believe that those actions will help us to not only meet, but exceed the goals we've presented to you tonight.
Thank you. Board members, are there questions? Ms. Benavides.
Thank you. I wanted to ask back the chart on page 10 where you spoke of interrupted learning. When the children came back, was it more of a come in and hit it hard or gradual learning, and how did that affect the testing? Because I know you mentioned 60 to 75% answers.
So let's take a look at this slide 10, is that correct?
That's what we were
So on
speaking of.
slide 10, what we see here in the dark gray, that is our Spring Star results. And during the Spring Star testing, we had approximately close to 88% of our students were able to come in and actually test during that time period. Because once again, we still had some remote instruction. The students actually had to be physically present on that single day of testing. We do have makeup testing dates, but students actually have to be present and come to school. Our MAP testing, however, is more of an instructional, it's during the class time in many cases. And so a large percentage of our students that are testing in MAP, we have a very high participation rate. With regard to the meets grade level or above, on the STAR test, that means students on average need to answer approximately 60 to 75% of the questions correct to earn a performance standard of meets grade level. Masters ranges a minimum between 75 to about 90% of the questions correctly. So each grade level has a slightly different range for meets and masters, but on average, meets grade level or above is approximately 60 to 75% of the questions correct on the STAR test. Masters is approximately 75 to 90 on average.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions? Ms. Derrick?
Just want to ask real quick about the House Bill 3 goals. Making sure that we had stakeholders at the table when the discussions happened and that principals all feel good about where we're asking them to go with these numbers.
Yes, principals are aware of the goals, and we were able to share those with them. The sitting around the table, they weren't a part of the setting, but they were part of hearing about them. The part that they will be a part of the table is setting their own campus goals. So that's the part where Ms. Machayo, Ms. De La Rosa, and me for my two campuses will actually sit down together. We'll talk about the different options that we presented to you at our last board meeting and get them to work to set their goals. So we are not going to impose them upon them, but really talk with them about here are some different ways and things that we thought about in setting our goals. But we do want everybody to feel good about the goals that they set, as long as they are stretch goals and as long as we're not just saying okay is okay, which none of our principals want to do.
Yes, okay, very good. And then Dr. Parker, for you, so when, after the Spring Star test is completed, when is the first time we as a board will get to hear some numbers to see how we're doing? Because that's what we're all excited to know is, okay, so what does it look like?
August. So the students will be testing in May. We will be receiving some of the scores, but not in time for the June board meeting.
Okay.
We won't have all of them. The advantage this year is last year, TEA, Texas Education Agency, extended the school, many districts extended their school year. TEA extended the testing window for STAR and EOC, which they'd never done before, and that extended into the middle of June, which is why we didn't receive and parents didn't receive their scores this past year until the end of June. This year, they have not extended that window, so testing will be completed by the third week across the state in May, and we should be receiving scores approximately around the second and third week of June, much similar to what it looked like pre-COVID, but not in enough time to present in the June board meeting. So
I can
August
understand.
would
Okay.
be the first.
Okay, we are ready for August.
I'm gonna jump in there though, Patty, because you also remember that we get those preliminary, and they are on board for knowing that when we get preliminary, you all will get a preliminary look, and I'll go over that with you. But remember, preliminary is preliminary. She was talking about when we put it together and we have the accountability part.
Any other questions from board members? I don't see any. Thank you very much, Ms. Campbell, Ms. Smith, Dr. Parker. Thank you for the information. We will move to 4D, which is our construction update. So, Mr. Mulroney.
It is a busy evening. We're going to be covering quite a bit of information, but again, we always welcome folks to visit our website. The folks have been doing video updates of campuses like we do just about every month, as well as posting pictures there, scopes, the promises made, promises kept presentations are there. So that CFB Bond website is constantly updated with that information as well. But since we last met, we've been making some progress on our construction projects and starting off with our athletic improvements. Well, we can't fix the weather. We did get the facilities finished, and they have been playing there at the Turner facilities and at the Smith facilities. So those new softball fields there, those were completely new facilities, and then of course the artificial turf and small upgrades at the baseball facilities. What we are hearing from our athletic coordinators is some need at the football fields for some lights and some bleachers there to support the students playing. First, we focused on the surfaces because we were losing all those weather days to the muddy conditions and the wear and tear on the fields. Now we're going to be looking at some of those other improvements. So next month, we'll be bringing some proposals forward on how we can support the coaches and the campuses to make those improvements and continue to celebrate our facilities and play at the schools. In the bond side, we've had a busy time. We are now contracted all the way. All the work for this summer is underway, which is excellent. Getting those contracts, those GMPs passed, and getting those contractors released will allow us to start spring break work. Campuses have been fantastic working with us, allowing us to get into those campuses because lead times, delays, small work is very complicated stuff. So we're treating this like we're in August already, and we're going to get started as soon as possible. So what you see here is that we are now, of the $350 million bond, and to clarify, everybody's got a different way of looking at this bond. So of course we've had the financial aspect of when those bonds were sold. We're looking at the overall picture here. So that's at 350. We're 95% contracted, of which 45% is money we've spent to date. And by September, we're going to be 80% spent out. So we are moving through this bond, making those updates right across the district, impacting, that's all the secondary campuses, and the majority of our elementary campuses have been done. So we are moving fast, and by September, that money will be spent and those improvements done. We also had a rival to the team, Lilia Goering, our director of planning and construction, had a baby girl in December, so they have been enjoying some time together. She'll be coming back after spring break, but we just want to celebrate that because even though she's been out, she's still texting and emailing, chatting with us on all the projects. So we're very excited for them, for that family. So looking in at the projects that were started in 2020, McWhorter, of course, is wrapped, Vivian Field and Turner, which are substantially complete. We, of course, had a little bit of extra scope there that we were able to get to, so we're still knocking that out, but substantially we're complete. So the package there we have is Sheffield. We're moving well there at about 50% done, and really starting to take shape of that building. This is that main entry, that library space. So on the right you can see the rendering, and on the left you can see the construction starting to come together. So that's putting in all that drywall, getting all those mechanical units, and being in the dry there by May. So if you remember, we sequenced this in 5 different stages, starting with that gym area, then the administration area, kinder, and into that that first village, and then of course the 2-story section in the back. Jackson has done a phenomenal job. I mean, we had a light schedule when we started this, and between Dallas and the weather last year, that just stacked up and stacked up. So they have been doing a great job getting trades going. On one half of the building, you'll see drywall and us getting in the dry, and on the other side, they're still flying steel. And that's that 2-story section. So those guys aren't slowing down one bit. We are on track to deliver that building in July, but with that administration area opening earlier so we can start to get folks through seeing the building and getting situated that for the start of school. And in fact, today, we had site tours with those teachers, being able to take them into that spaces and starting to get them to think about how that might be different and what those villages and opportunities will bring. Diving into the 21 projects, the elementary school pack, again, is substantially complete. We have some outdoor learning at Freeman and Thompson, River Chase and Blanton to go, but again, substantially complete. So you won't see those in the update, but I always like to mention them because we haven't forgotten about them, but they're not in the slide deck. However, the marquees are, and there we have the 15 marquees, and all of those have been demoed, and the foundations are set. So you will see right across the board, they've done in 4 groups, if you would. Rosemead, Davis, Fano, and Thompson were the first to go, and they're going to be the first to go vertical. McCoy, Good, Carrollton, and Central are also on their way. Farmers Branch, Stark, La Vita, Las Colinas. You probably noticed some activity out there. We've just started the demolition of those signs and the setting of those foundations. And then, of course, our three Dallas friends, McCamey, McWhorter, and Sheffield. We were delayed looking for those permits, but we are on our way again. What you will see is that they will pop out the ground, and in the next 2 weeks, particularly over spring break, we're going to be putting up the steel structures, and so it's going to really take shape. And then everything's going to slow down again, because then we get into all the brick and the stone and the finishes and then the lettering and stuff. And so that will run all the way through till the end of May. Right towards the end of May, you'll see those screens starting to come on. We'll train some folks before the break, but really we're going to focus on training everybody when they come back, and those will be ready for the start of school next year. Over at Smith, the new construction CTE area is taking shape, and that project is flying along about 60% complete there. This is that new student entry as well. In January, we got to share that with our BOC friends, and we got to do a site tour there, and I have to give a shout out to Stephanie and the campus. They were able to get some business academy students to share, because they've occupied their space since the start of the school year, and they got to share how they were using that. And amazing things were coming out. One of the ones was, because those spaces are visible from Innovation Alley, they've got more interest in the clubs and activities that are going on. They've got better attendance at certain events and things. So hearing that from the students and instructors was fantastic. So you can see that Innovation Alley as well as that photo there. Not to be outdone, Perry is tearing along as well. And similar to Sheffield, we've got a very stacked schedule. At the front door, they have all those foundations set, which is a big one. A lot of that dirt hasn't seen light for 50 years plus. So having that dug and set and those new foundations and piers drilled is big. Having all that steel hung, then you'll really start to see it take shape. Here's just a little before and after. On the left, you can see what we looked at in December, and over here is from February, where we've got that slab down and the deck on. They're ready to start dropping those finishes. Over in the 6th grade area, this is that newest addition, which was the 2008 section of the building. Since the structure there was, and the code of compliance was a lot easier, we didn't do a lot of structural changes to that area. We jumped straight in and started doing finishes. So you'll see the drywalls in, ceiling grids laid, even the tile behind the drinking fountains there, that pop of red, is in. So that area is really coming along. February 18th was a professional development day, and the folks at Perry have been such great partners to CORE and tolerating portables and all the things that go along with portables, that we decided that we needed to have a celebration. So our partners at CORE Construction stepped up and cooked barbecue for everybody on site. All the teachers, we had door prizes, we played games. Robin's team helped us with some bebops. We made games out of those. I believe there was some karaoke, as well as some site tours that we did. We took all the staff members through the building, got to share those spaces as they start to come alive. It was really exciting, because then they can start to really see how that school's transformed now, and you start to see some of these new learning environments that we have. Moving along is Creekview. Ranchview is under construction. Again, this really, the last round of projects here starts to highlight these ugly bond package parts. I remind everybody that Creekview is our #1 energy user. So despite Turner being built in the 60s, Creekview is our #1 energy user. It ran an old school 4-pipe boiler system, and it ate energy. So we are spending a huge amount of effort trying to gut that old system out and put a state-of-the-art air handler unit with VRF on that system. So what that means is that Creekview is going to be down this summer for construction. We've got to go completely through those middle 2 levels and get that old HVAC system out and put a new HVAC system in. So lots of activity at Creekview right across the campus. Ranchview is going to be a little bit lighter. We're going to be focused on our CTE area with our culinary arts and our IB program there, as well as some library upgrades, and then some finishes in the gym. The last pack of projects, the stadium, elementaries, and the middle schools are underway. The stadium is moving along, though. And again, remember, these construction progresses run slightly in the rear because they match the pay-ups. So that 5% is about 30 days out. It's further along than that. You can see that that was our existing in December, and by January we got completely cleaned up, scraped that site clean on that visitor side, and we've started to drop those pier heads. Remember, those piers go 60 feet down into the earth, so we're not going to see a lot of vertical activity here for a few months, and then that concrete bleacher set will go on top of that. So we'll see that starting to pop out the ground in May. On the home side, They did a lot of exploration. There was a mismatch of different sprinkler pipes from different decades that have been patched and repaired. We're taking the whole thing out and rebuilding it from scratch. The fire department has been phenomenal to work with us, understanding what we're trying to do, but it has been disruptive to the folks there. So again, shout out to those guys helping us pack up, move things, go into storerooms, go into the concession stands, work with all those folks as we go through that building. The six-pack elementary, the two, again, these are kind of Makorta-esque, but much, much lighter. We're talking small library renovation, a couple of cleanups in the main hallways, some HVAC, some roofing. We're really getting into that part of that ugly bond where we've got very few dollars and a lot of need. We have been meeting with those campuses, and we're going to start work over the spring break, dropping cable, starting to get ready for those camera upgrades, those access controls, as well as that work in the library spaces. Middle schools go the same way. Again, it looks like a large package, but when you split it out 5 ways and you have these really old units at Blaylock and Polk, and they've got to replace the roof as well, again, it doesn't leave very much. So we'll be doing some cleanup and refreshes in the fine arts sections here, as well as some collaboration spaces for these campuses, but again, very minor touches on these last round of projects.
Thank you. Are there any questions from board members? Ms. Benavidez.
Thank you. I was going to ask, when you spoke about the natatorium, was there updates to the pool or anything?
Yes, ma'am, there are some code items. We are helping with some of the pumps and the filters equipment. We're also rebuilding that bulkhead. That bulkhead was failing, but outside of that, it's pretty slim.
And then I recall 2 meetings ago you spoke about the rainwater. Was there was something that was remaining at rainwater that needed to be done?
Well, rainwater will be in the tier 2 elementaries, which will be just starting off, and there we will be refreshing that library plus the main hallways where you've got that kind of pink mauve color going on. A little bit on the graphics and wayfinding, and a little bit in the outdoor learning. We're working with them as well to help them with some outdoor learning opportunities there.
Thank you.
Any other questions from board members? Okay. I don't see any, so thank you very much, Mr. Mulrooney. Well, to my colleagues on the board, I do have a short break in the agenda at this point, but we're really close to the finish line, so unless there are any strong objections, I'm going to move forward, and I think we can finish up in pretty short order. So let's move to agenda item number 5, which is our consent agenda. The consent agenda is a mechanism that the board uses to approve a number of routine items together with a single vote. In compliance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, the public notice for this meeting includes the list of all consent agenda items, and the board has been provided ample information about these items in advance. Prior to any action taken on the consent agenda, board members may request withdrawal of individual items for clarification or discussions. Board members, are there any items to be removed from the consent agenda at this time? Ms. Urbacek?
Yes, I'd like to pull item number 5E, consider approve administrator contracts. I'd like to pull that for individual consideration, please.
Okay. Agenda item 5E, Ms. Urbacek has requested that that be pulled. Are there any other requests? Making sure I'm looking at my TV screens here. Okay. All right. If there are no other items to be removed, do I have a motion regarding the consent agenda as amended? Ms. Derrick?
I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented with the exception of 5E.
Okay. We have a motion from Ms. Derrick. Do I have a second? Second from Mr. Shackman. Is there any discussion? Okay. All those in favor, please raise their hands. Okay, I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. All those opposed, raise your hand. None. With a vote of 7 in favor and 0 opposed, the motion carries. So we'll now move to item 6A, which is items removed from consent. We have an item removed from consent, so we will proceed to this item. The title of the item removed is 5E. Ms. Urbacek, you asked for that to be removed, and is there anything you'd like to say at this time?
Yes, I just wanted to consider school separately, so if there's no other items, then I'll go ahead and make a motion that we approve the administrative contracts excluding Ranch View High School.
I have a motion that we approve the administrative contracts excluding Ranch View High School. Do I have a second? I have a second from Ms. Derrick. All those in, or is there any discussion?
Oh, that's right. I'm so sorry. Thank you.
Okay.
That's a personal preference for me to do that to
Okay.
avoid any kind of conflict, so.
Okay, before we vote, is there any further discussion? Okay, so we're voting on a motion to approve agenda item 5E, excluding Ranch View High School. All those in favor, please show by raising your hand. See, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All those opposed? None. So by a motion of 7 in favor and 0 against, the motion carries, or by a vote of 7 in favor, 0 against, the motion carries. So do we have a motion regarding Ranch View High School? Ms. Derrick.
I move that we approve the contract for Ranch View High School for item 5E.
Okay, so I have a motion that we approve the contracts for Ranch View High School for item 5E. Is there a second? I have a second from Mr. Shackman. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please show by raising your hand. I see 6 hands raised. All those opposed? By a vote of 6 in favor, 0 against, and 1 abstention, the motion carries. All right, we'll move to item 6B now, which is consider approve the proposed revisions to HB3 board goals. Dr. West, I believe this is you.
It is. As you all remember, on May 7th of 2020, you approved the House Bill 3 board goals for reading, math, CCMR, and then you also know that that was right at the very beginning of the pandemic, and we've been through quarantines and at-home learning and remote and traditional. And so earlier tonight in the presentation that Dr. Parker and Shashawn Campbell and Ms. Smith did, we reminded you of what the revised House Bill 3 goals look like. That was part of Ms. Smith's presentation. And one of the questions that you asked was how many people were involved, so I went back to count, and some people are in their were in their double, so I had to take them out, but there were 14 people that had to run data, look at things over and over and over as we worked on this over a period of 2 to 3 months, trying to figure out what seemed to be, as we've explained, challenge and reasonable. So we are hopeful. Our recommendation is that you approve the revisions for House Bill 3 board goals.
Thank you, Dr. West. Before I ask for a motion, are there any questions that the board has for Dr. West? Seeing and hearing none, is there a motion? Mr. Shackman.
Dr. Black, I think the entire board wishes we didn't have to, but it is certainly not the fault of anybody on our staff or any of our families or students that we've encountered the learning loss that we did. The adjustments are appropriate. We know we're going to continue to work hard. With that said, I move that we approve the adjusted House Bill 3 goals as presented.
We have a motion from Mr. Shackman. Is there a second? Second from Ms. Hrbacek. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please show by raising your hand. I believe I see 7 hands raised. All opposed? 0. By a vote of 7 in favor and 0 opposed, the motion carries. Brings us to agenda item number 7, which is comments from board members regarding posted agenda items. Board members, do you have any comments you wish to make at this time related to the posted agenda? Always like to give you a couple of seconds. All right. Well, seeing none, hearing none, I'll move to our adjournment, agenda item 8. We've reached the end of our agenda. I want to thank everyone for being here, thank my colleagues and the staff for helping us do this tonight. And we are adjourned at 8:54 p.m.